So Tuesday, been a great day. We had a great weekend. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. I honestly slept through the second half. It was a long weekend, but today has been a wonderful day. And I recently, over on Twitter, I was asking just like, are you using Kubernetes on your laptop? And I was curious, especially coming out of the pandemic, like how are people doing stuff? Are we remote? And I had some assumptions. So I just asked the question, are you using Kubernetes on your laptop? And I got some amazing answers, and I continued to get amazing answers. And just now, I like literally just saw this. I came across this repository. It was shared with me by Michelle Aducci, and I'm going to bring it over here. Here we go. And I just want to take it for a spin. I want to take it for a spin right now. I can't wait any more of all the things that happen in this thread. I want to take this one for a spin. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go here. The idea is I can use Terraform to install a kind cluster. And when I'm done, just destroy it. But it's Terraform. So it's this software as code or infrastructure as code opportunity. So I'm going to take a look. And this is, I have spent no time on this. I spent a couple seconds just looking at it, and I'm excited. Today's been a good day, but it's not over yet. It's where I'm at. It's 11:09, so the day's not over. So I'm going to get started. But I'm going to put some music on. Right, I'm not like working, but I want to have some music. So let's learn something together. And my name is Deshaun. I'm a developer advocate. I like doing what I do. Uh, but as always, like I don't have a mission here. If you've got questions, ask. I'll say that. And if you're joining and you're having fun, say hi. Let me know where you're joining from because that's always fun. Instead of feeling like I'm just talking to myself. And I'll ask a favor, if you wouldn't mind, if my audio has issues or if there's things I need to fix, please let me know. So let's. Oh, I didn't share the screen. let's let's do this. Let me show you what I was talking about. This is the tweet that I got just a few minutes ago, and I like the idea a lot, so I'm going to take it for a spin. So here's the repository. Feel free to join along. This is what I'm working on because today was a good day, and maybe I can get one more cool win out of the day. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for saying hi. Let me know where you're joining from. This idea. Uh, Normally, my mom and dad they'll join the live stream, but I didn't give them any heads up. But I know that they'll watch later because my mom and dad are awesome. So hi, mom and dad, I love you, and they like to see where people are joining in from, and I like to tell them, like, hey, I had people joining from all over the place. So that's what we're doing. Let's go. Let's make sure that on this box I've got the things that I need. Right. Let's see if we've got some prerequisites. So it's just Terraform allows users to create local Kubernetes cluster with Kubernetes in kind and configuring the service mesh with Cilium and or Istio. I'm a big fan of Cilium. I'm actually a contributor to Cilium. The following steps are performed within the project. A local cluster composed by a control plane node and a single worker node is bootstrapped. The ports are bound to the host. Ooh, and mapped node ports on the control plane node. A kubeconfig file is created locally in the project folder. The namespace Istio system with the basic Istio services created. When choosing Cilium, the services will be installed in the kube system namespace. In case of further operations configuration of the Kind cluster, it's suggested to download the latest release of Kind. All right, so I need to make sure that I've got the latest version of Kind. Let's take that for a spin. That shouldn't be too difficult. But can't I think I normally install Kind. Let's take a look. Let's close up these other things because there's one thing on my mind right now, and that's this. I can close this. Which kind? Whoops. Which kind? Kind. All right. 0.20. Whoa, what? That can't be right. I'm on v0.20.0. Seriously? Let's see. Releases. Oh, yeah, here it is. V0.20. Okay, so I'm on the latest and greatest. That's good. And let's keep going. Requirements. Docker. Yes. Terraform. Let's see. Which Boom. Okay. Helm. Which helm? Good. Kind. Yeah, we already did that. Yep. And make. Okay. When I have to have make installed, maybe that's okay. Oh, I'll bet you. I will. Now I'm starting to think that maybe the kind release. He said in case of further operations configuration of the kind cluster, it's suggested to download the latest version of the kind tool. Does that mean like release or the binary? We'll see. So let's just create the cluster. So let's do this. And I'm just gonna do it wherever I'm at. Enter. No, let's do it right. Meducci. CD Fund. The way I like to organize my things is these are by the GitHub orgs, the projects. Victor, UCI. All right. Let's go in there and let's get clone that repository. Good. All right. So first of all, I'm already impressed. I like the docs. I feel like I'm on the right track. So let's go into cluster. We'll just cd kind with mesh. And then it just says Terraform init, Terraform apply. If it's that easy, this is mission accomplished. And yeah, let's go. All right, the directory has no Terraform configuration files. You may begin working with Terraform immediately by creating Terraform configuration files. Oh, from there I got a CD into cluster. Sorry. There we go. Initializing the backend. So far, so good. All right, Terraform apply. Terraform apply. Now I've got Docker running. We're just gonna leave it. Let's just see, because I've already got K3D running locally. Let's see what happens. And Vladimir, I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Let me know I'm not just talking to myself. I appreciate you. All right, so it says there are variables that can be changed. They hold the following default values. Okay, 1.27.3. Those look reasonable to me. Oh my goodness, Chris. Chris, would you like to join? Did you see what I'm doing? I will. I'll send you a link because I know it's a little bit earlier for you, so you can just come on. I just started, and I've just been pointed to this cluster from this Twitter thread. He's got an example of I use Terraform with kind to create a local cluster on demand, including Istio and observability tools. When I don't need it, I dispose it. I'm like, oh, hey, and he gave me a repo that shows it. Like, this is fantastic. So, Chris, I'm going to send you a link, and I would love to have you on, and we can explore this together. So, give me one sec. I just closed something. I don't know what I closed, but I'm going to turn off my music because Chris is going to join. And give me just one more sec, Chris. Here comes your invite. Please continue to hold. Teamwork makes the dream work. And the thing is, when you're doing things together, this is my belief, when you're doing things together, it's stickier. Meaning, I invited Chris because I know with Chris here, I am going to enjoy it more. I'm going to enjoy this exercise more. And it's going to be stickier. The stuff that I learn. There it is. The stuff that I learn is going to be stickier, and the vibe, the feeling. I'm going to remember this more. So, Chris, I sent it to your Google chat. So give me one sec. I'm going to turn on. There we go. All right. So he's going to join in just a sec, and I get to pull him in. That's the nice thing about using StreamYard. So all I've done now, actually, I'll wait for Chris, and then I'll recap with Chris. So this is awesome. So Justin, hello. Justin, you're saying morning. Where are you from? Where is it morning? And welcome here. Let me know where you're from. Orlin, hi. Orlin, what an amazing. Orlin, you are welcome to come in. This is awesome. Get the band back together. I'm going to bring in Chris. Chris, how are you? This is awesome. Oh, yeah? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Why?
I've got like triple volume and triple like something that's doing a do loop right now.
How about now?
Like triple volume on
Yep,
triple.
yep, get it. But how about now? You got to say something. You say something.
Okay, I
Is that
think
better?
I corrected that
Oh yeah,
by
it was on
removing
my
myself
end.
from YouTube.
It was on my end. I had and the YouTube, yeah. I had the stream thing set up so it was gonna do that bouncy bounce.
Yeah.
Justin's joining from Africa. Thank you, Orlin. I just invited Chris, and I will happily send you an invite as well because this thread. The reason I'm here is because of the thread that I saw you in earlier. So if you're around, if you want to join, I will immediately send you a link. But here's the thing. This is what I saw. I was asking about Kubernetes on the laptop, and I'm thinking about where are you running Kubernetes? Are you doing Kubernetes on your laptop as part of your path to production? Right? Are you connected? Are you remote? And for me, the whole like developing remotely on a remote machine, I and I've got good internet. I got really good internet, but that doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem snappy enough. I like doing development
Yeah.
locally, especially because we travel a little
It's
bit.
so easy, right? Like every laptop, whether that's Mac, Windows, I run Linux. You've got options,
And
and
laptops are so powerful
it's
these
so
days.
easy. Yeah, and you got and it's so easy, to fire up a cluster, right? Um,
Yeah.
you got Kind, and so I'm curious, like, what appealed to you? You saw Kind, and then you
And I
also
saw
saw
Terraform.
Terraform, and then you got
I'll tell you
Mesh.
exactly the appeal. Because I did a project with Butch. I did a project where we kind of, the platform team wanted to deliver a supported development environment. What does that mean? If you're trying to map your development environment to production and you want to have support, well, one way that you could do that is, and that what they did was deliver a OVA that had the development environment on it, so that your developer, the day one, you get the latest version of the OEA and it has everything that you need.
Yeah,
Right? That's a great pattern because
it's great. Yeah.
what's running on that OVA, what's set up for that OVA is only the things that are supported in production. So I've got this pattern which I'm happy to share, but that's what got me excited about it because here's another way of, instead of delivering an OVA, I can do a git clone run. I can stand it up locally. So this github.com Sean dash cloud for my platform, for what I'm running internally, this repository kind of outlines what's supported in production, what's supported on the platform. So if you find yourself installing something that's not on this list, guess what? It's not going to be in production. So
Hmm.
if I'm giving you an OVA, thinking platform team and trying to make path to production as easy as possible, if I'm giving you an OVA that has everything included or an easy way for you to install anything off in the menu, that's one awesome way. But here's another one. So I got a lot of great responses and I got a lot of good feedback on what people were doing. The thread was really, really valuable for me. But this jumped out at me as a way of making it not just like, hey, yeah, we use Kind or we use K3S. Nobody else really pointed towards a path like this, right?
Hmm.
You developers, and guess what? When that menu changes, here the repository changes. So you can see this path of, oh, I want to make sure I'm on the latest version of what's supported in production, right? Get pull.
Okay.
So that's what
So
got me here.
yeah. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, but like I'm trying to catch up. But like the way I'm thinking about this, hopefully it's the right way. Is I'm using something like a higher level abstraction rather than the Kind CLI to bootstrap a cluster. But not only am I getting a cluster, I'm getting some stuff baked into it.
Yeah,
I'm getting things
right.
like mesh and
That
other
was the well, that was the other thing. His note. This is another part, including Istio and observability
things.
tools,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So my little pattern over here. This is an important part. When you, I've got this multi-cluster. I got a bunch of clusters, but this is the way I do everything with Flux.
Yeah.
So all my clusters are set up. We can look at, this is my juice box.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't have the one that I was using yesterday. My work laptop
Hmm.
has Deshaun IO. That's the tenant that's deployed. But my tenants, right, depending on what project I'm working, or I have multiple deployed, depending on what tenant is running, I'm going to use this one. I include some things.
Things
Like
that you
when
want.
you come out, you get like, hey, in
Mhm.
production, you're going to have Zipkin, you're going to have Grafana, you're going to have Prometheus. So in your development, you should have those things. It should match production as much as possible so that you're not changing. Like, how are you doing logs? Oh, you're sending out a local Splunk. Well, we don't use Splunk in production, right?
Yeah.
So making it as easy as possible to make things or to give environments parity.
Yeah.
This is
Makes
just
sense.
another good example. So that idea of, oh, observability, you get that out of the box. So if you're a tenant running on my platform, your namespace is going to include a Zipkin. It's going to include a Loki or a Grafana or whatever it is. Baby steps. So it it opened up a lot, and it validated some things for me, but it also seemed really, really interesting too.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'll leave it there. So let's go. So I did this. I made sure I have everything installed. I've got the latest versions. This one made me think a tiny bit. Why would I need to have make? And also the other thing was I felt like, ooh, this would be a good option for a vendor file, right? Just to make this whole get
Yeah.
your own run
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot
For
easier.
sure.
So anyways, here we are. I did these steps. Oh, I did
You want
the
values, right?
yep, I did the apply step, and here we are. So, what is the? Do you want to perform these actions? So this is what it's going to do. A kind cluster, local cluster, cert key. Ooh, good, good. Like, so it's doing stuff. Control plane. All right. So yeah, let's just do it and see. Like, I don't have any expectation. I just, if this works, if I get a cluster, if I get, kubectl, get nodes, I'm pretty
Yeah.
impressed. I never considered this as an option,
I think you're
but
going to get more than a cluster. I think you're going to get a cluster with some stuff baked into it
I
too.
didn't look at any of the other stuff. I didn't dig in,
Yeah.
right? So let's see. Right, this is pretty cool. So in my head, if I told you, hey, this is my platform and this is what
Hmm.
I do,
Yeah.
right? This is my platform engineer hat. And I point, hey, here's what's on the menu. This is where everything comes. We do get ups and we're good to go. A really, really cool, like, next step that in my head, Chris, in my head, I could take your stuff. You could give me a repository and like these tenants, you could give me a repository, any public repository. These are all mapped right now to GitHub Orgs. So if I go
Hmm.
to github.com, javagrunt.com, this is one that I work on my stream a lot.
Hmm.
The only thing that you would have to do, you're not making containers, you're not doing anything. You've got some guidelines that you need to follow. But the way that you would tell me what to deploy is this: a Flux repository and a customization YAML.
Hmm.
That's it. Now, this YAML, it's all these workloads, right? These Knative services. And there's a lot of specs here, but it's referencing an image, but you're not building the image. I'm building the image. And
Hmm.
what you're telling me here, or what I'm telling the platform engineer, right? The platform engineer is, I want this repository version 10 built, right? That's what I want to take to production is version 10. But
For
it's
sure.
the source code. You're just telling me the source code.
Yeah.
My platform, my path of production, I'm going to build the containers because I don't trust you. I don't.
That's fine. Yeah.
This is my hardware. It's in my house. I
You're,
don't trust
you're
you.
not hurting my feelings.
Right? But the cool thing is, somewhere down the road, I should be able to do this for anybody. But
Yeah.
beyond that, if you're new to Kubernetes, and if you want to test and validate before you hit, get commit to build
Yeah.
these things,
You
wouldn't
want
it
to
be
get
cool if I
into it.
gave you a Terraform? If I gave you this local cluster that's going to behave just like the one in production, if it had the Zipkin, it had the Grafana, it had all those things, boom, locally, wouldn't that be cool?
It would be cool.
It feels to me
So
like it'd be cool.
this is a question though that I have is like we often as developers and operators, we talk about prerequisites. So you just went to that repo and it said, hey, you need to have these things
Yep.
installed on your laptop in order for you to even consume this.
Yep.
So now, like, the line's blurred for me because, like, you've got all these manifests,
Yep.
and some of these manifests may require certain prerequisites. Well, at least Flux, right?
Yep.
But there might be other things that you need depending on the contribution from that repository, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Good point. Good point. But let's keep going.
Now let's
So
keep going.
this is the idea. This is what it looks like. And again, right, I always say that you can go buy all this. Right? There's things that do this way easier. I just don't have the money. I don't have the money. And for what I'm trying to take to production for me is Raspberry Pis. I don't have cloud money. I have Raspberry Pi money.
Yeah.
I got a lot of them. So here we are. This is just the idea, and there's a goal here. There's an output here where it would be cool, because I run in here also. I have my local environment set up. Like I'm telling, if you're on my platform, I tell you like, hey, here's what I do for K3D, right? But then for my local development environment, I set up my stuff and I put Knative serving on it,
Nice.
right? But this Terraform thing seems pretty cool, right? I don't want to have to keep each cluster. I don't want to have to keep track of every developer. If I could give away this Terraform, this project could replace my local development environment clusters, right? I could
Okay.
have it over here. So, anyways, we're moving forward. So let's see. Let's check in. It's good. I wish I would have hit the time button, but now we've got something. So let's see what it does. The direction said that's probably my kubeconfig, right?
Looks like it.
It does. It looks like it. Okay. So now if I do
Config
kubectl,
that.
what should I do? If I do kubectl, I want to set my config to that.
Right.
How do I do that? Kubectl
Uh, environment variable. Just
modify
set it to the file path. Export kubeconfig equals that file that you just had.
kubeconfig equals /local that.
Yep.
That works. Okay. Kubectl get nodes. It was that easy. That's pretty slick.
That's pretty neat.
That's pretty slick. Now let's see what's going on the inside.
What's on it?
It says view
No
pods.
No pods.
No pods. All right. So it says ready.
Are you getting it from all namespaces?
That's probably right. Because I was just about to do a -A, right? So up here I'm gonna hit 0 for all. There it is.
There we go.
All right. Core DNS, SC, KindNet. That's normal API server. Per instructions, though, I expected Istio to be in an Istio system.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? So I'm viewing all namespaces, so I don't see Istio. So let's take a look and let's see what's wrong. Even without Istio, I'm pretty impressed that I kind of like this as here's how you do it, right? The one change I would do is add a vendor, so that I didn't have to do the grab the prereqs, like, hey, here's what it is. Alternative using makefile. Oh, configuring Istio. Okay, Istio deploys service mesh. So I go into Istio and then okay, that's not too shabby.
First step is get the cluster. Second step is okay.
Yep. Hey, given that you've got a cluster now do this. You know, I'm not going to do Istio. I'm going to go ahead and scoot down to this one. I'm going to do Cilium.
Yeah, why not?
So what could possibly go wrong? Right? So I'm going to go here. Oh, nope, it's in cluster, so his instructions were right. And then I'm going to, nope, Istio. No, I said Cilium. Terraform init. Terraform apply. --auto -approve. And let's see.
So this thing must know what cluster it's targeting, right?
It's using kubeconfig, right?
Yeah. So like Terraform
So
is somehow aware. Terraform is somehow aware of the kubeconfig, right? For that module.
You know what? So it doesn't have to be aware of the kubeconfig. It only needs to know that local cluster config.
Okay.
Right? Because Terraform doesn't need to read your kubeconfig as long as it has that.
Got it.
You can say, hey, this is my kubeconfig. So without even looking at the Terraform, I think we're in good shape either way. So here we go. Terraform. Cilium. Let's go take a look and see what happened. He said it would be inside of
Contexts.
Kubernetes. What happened?
That's contexts. We need pods, right? Ruh-roh.
Oh wait, it wasn't working. Did I lose my config? Yeah, because I didn't have that file, the ./local. So yeah. So that's okay. We're good. We got to figure it out. We can figure out these things. So it's red. It says it's running. So there's some crash loop back off here. Okay, so
Crash loop there.
we ran into something.
Yeah.
But I'm still impressed. I am still impressed. So let's go see what happened. Or do you have something to say? Program CLI from overlay replacing. I wasn't sure the BFJIT compilation is enabled. Okay, so it didn't work the way that we wanted to. Let's do this. Let's go describe, and let's see what happened. Like what was going on. So the state is terminated. It says terminated completed. I'm scrolling down, like to have these reasons, like what's happening. Here we go. Reason error. Crash loop back off. So here's our problem. The Cilium agent is where we're running into problems. And again, exactly the error. So it says, unable to ensure this can be ignored when Cilium is running inside non-host network namespace. Right? We're running inside a kind, so it should be ignored. That's fine. So what's really happening? What's the real error? Exit code 1. What's really happening? What's the problem?
Yeah, that is a good question.
So I was hoping, and I'll just say this. So even though it didn't go as smooth as I was hoping, I'm still absolutely impressed.
Does it concern us that we saw some other issues in the pods? Like, was it CoreDNS? It says it's pending. Does Cilium have a dependency on CoreDNS at all? I don't know. I'm guessing.
So let's take a look here. Let's do.
Is it
describe? And it might just be taking its time because it doesn't have any. This one's not restarting, so there is definitely a dependency of CoreDNS on something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is interesting. Let's take a look. Right, we know how to do this. Warning: failed scheduling. 02 nodes are available. 2 nodes had untolerated taint.
Yeah.
02 nodes are available. 02 nodes are available.
Is it a capacity
That's
thing?
very possible. Normally I get information here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not. So yeah, it might be something else. It might be something else. But these are the pods. It didn't go as I'd hoped. But the other thing here is I'm on ARM64. And that's been known to cause some problems. So we can give it one more shot. And,
Sure.
Or are you on a machine that doesn't have ARM64?
I am on I'm on a Linux machine that is not an ARM.
Oh, do you want to try this? Do you want to try?
Let me pull this down. I need the repo again. So let's see. Is this kind for mesh? Is that what it's called?
Here, I'll put it in the chat for anybody else that wants to follow along. Here we go. And I'm going to try to go to another machine as well. But I already know the other machines there. Here's the thing. you're familiar with the guy that has the hot rod car that's sitting in his garage that's up on blocks and the hood's open and he's always doing this. Well, that's the way my home lab is.
Yeah.
It's up on blocks right now, and then the hood's up, and I'm doing this with my son. It's a family deal,
Why not?
but on the weekends, that same cluster, I take it out and I take it fast around the corners. So right now it's just up on blocks, and I don't have a non-ARM 64 machine to run this on, but I had a hint, or maybe it's a hope that would work.
So I got to go to, what is it, cluster, and then I do a Terraform init.
Yep.
Let's see what that does.
Here, you can share your screen.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
Put me on the spot.
Or not. You don't have to. If you
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out how to
you're
do.
professional.
I just need to figure out what. Where was I doing this? There it is. Present. Present. Share screen. Share screen. Select window or screen.
In this case, your terminal's probably fine.
There. You seeing what I'm seeing?
I'm going to pull it up.
There. Just get all that out of the way and make it big.
There you go.
Does that make? Yep. You seeing it?
I'm seeing it enough.
Okay. Is it big enough? That's the question.
If you can go bigger,
You can go bigger? Let's see. How do I make that happen?
Or just share that terminal.
This is the terminal and the screen.
There you go.
I make it as big as
There you go.
make it.
There you go. Now we're cooking.
All right. So you can see I use GitHub. I cloned the repo. I seed into the repo. I seed into cluster. And I did an init. It looks like that works. Now it's just Terraform apply, right?
Yep. Hey, that's what worked for me.
And then you said yes. So we got to wait. So it's about a minute, it says, 53 seconds when I saw it from your machine.
Awesome. So this is pretty slick. And it would be really nice if that's the only deal. If it was just because I'm on ARM64, that'd be great. But right now, this box is ARM64. Like I said, my home lab is mostly Raspberry Pis, but it's definitely ARM64. I do have some Nooks in there, but they're up on blocks right now. They're getting an oil change.
30 seconds.
So this is great. Thanks for joining. How have you been?
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. The exchange we had sort of in real life
Yeah.
is I'm waiting for my my first Raspberry Pi to actually experiment with. So
Awesome.
this will be a good little experiment. All right. So it looks like it created a cluster. I probably want to export.
You know what? Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Let's just assume it's okay. You got a config. I want to see this next step if it uses that configuration file to install Cilium. So don't even worry about the K9s. Let's not even look at it. Oh, boom. That worked.
I just wanted to see that it was up.
Yep.
So now we want to go to Cilium.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I want to go up, and I guess it's a sibling. And then we'll do the same thing we did before, init.
Yep.
And then apply.
Excellent work. Excellent work. Thanks. Thanks so much for sharing. I like hanging out with you. You know that?
Yeah, man. This is good stuff. All right. So it's using, interesting. So Terraform underneath the covers is delegating to a Helm
Helm chart. Okay. Yep.
chart, it looks like. And it's using Helm to deploy Cilium. All right.
And now,
So
and we can do
great.
that, right?
Let's do this.
Now let's take
Looks like I'm running into the same issue, or maybe not. Init. Initializing failed.
I don't see any restarts. Regenerating endpoint serving. Oh, it's working.
Looks like it's working.
It's working.
Yeah, it is.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome. Let us know where you're from. we're having fun here. Let us know where you're from. Say hi. I appreciate you saying hi. And thanks for hanging out with us. But let us know where you're from. We are taking this repository for a spin, and right now that's exciting. So the ARM64 was the cause. It's like that we. It's like we've done this stuff before. It's like we have some kind of experience that we could lean into. This is awesome.
Right.
This is really really cool.
I
I'm
want to rewind on this though, to Sean,
yeah.
because my mind is sort of like unpacking everything. So we have
Mhm.
kind. We know what kind is for.
Mhm.
It's basically, you know, a Docker, a Kubernetes cluster running in Docker,
Yep.
right? It's a CLI and it lets you bootstrap a single node cluster. So I guess the assumption is that now we've added a layer. We've got Terraform,
Mhm.
right? And then we're using Terraform, and there's some kind of connection between Terraform and Kind to bootstrap a cluster. So when we did Terraform init, Terraform apply, we got ourselves a cluster. And then there was another Terraform module that basically installed Cilium, and maybe there are other modules inside this project that are capable of installing other things. But like value add, again, getting back to your premise, you said, wouldn't it be nice if I could package everything kind of like you said you were talking about OVA, so that's VMs, but
Mhm.
in Kubernetes world, rather than having um, uh, a GitHub repository that has manifests that require Flux to be installed on the cluster to deliver things that you want to run in the cluster. Here you could use Terraform to bootstrap a cluster and as well install things into the cluster.
Yep.
So compare and contrast that. You're going to maintain everything in Git. What do you think are the benefits of doing like Terraform in this Terraform way
So
than say what you were talking about
So my main
doing?
thing here is the main benefit I see here. Oh, I duct tape DevOps. I get it. I understand. When I typed Terraform, I hesitated and I said, "Oh, I wonder if duct tape DevOps is going to show up."
Yeah.
Duct tape DevOps, and I'm a fan of OpenTofu, and but I'm also a fan of Terraform and the ease of what it does. And I was just trying to get through this. Don't can we still be friends?
We're
So
non-judgmental here. Come on.
yes, it's a safe place. So there you go. You definitely got a hesitation. So the idea here is, let's just say I'm platform person in org, but it's me, right? If I wanted you, Chris, to be able to deploy stuff on my environment, and
Mhm.
I wanted you to like have the experience in your dev environment on your laptop, this is a great idea for, hey, you want to see what your tenant's going to be like in production or in dev or in stage? Here you go. Git clone, do it. But the one step that I would do is I would try to simplify the steps, reduce your options, right? And make it, yeah, the things that you get out of the box by default on my environment. Today it's just Zipkin and Cloudflare D,
Mhm.
so that I can access your cluster if you're doing development. And this is a great little tip here. If you're doing development and I'm somewhere else, we're both remote, right? With Cloudflare D, yes, there's a cost. It's $5 a month for the tunnel, but you can give me access to visit your cluster and to run into the same error that you're running into, and we could see each other's stuff. And if I'm giving you a Zipkin that's accessible, and I'm giving you a Sprinkle gateway and all those kind of things, if I'm giving you this pattern, whether we're remote or on prem or doing whatever, I can give you a setup and it runs, and it's one that I can support because I told you I can support it, and everything that's in this Terraform repository is supported. It's going to match production as much as possible. So let's take a step
That's
back.
what I'm picking at, though.
Yeah,
So, like, I want to challenge it a little bit.
yeah.
Like, I like, so I
So
guess
what
if
would
we
I do?
step back, we
What would
just
I
step
do?
back and go, hey, I don't have a cluster. I need a
Yeah,
cluster.
you're
So
new, right? The
we got
onboarding
many,
story.
we got many things that we need to do, or many options that we have, rather. That's the way I should say it.
Yep.
Many options to do that. So you can use Kind. You're going to do that on your local machine, right? And that's assuming that you have Docker on your machine. And so you do that. You get
Yep.
yourself a cluster. So now you start to have a wealth of choice of like What else can you do? If I'm familiar with Terraform and I want to go that route, I could use Terraform to install all the things and manage everything in Terraform and put all the Terraform in a Git repo.
Mhm.
But then I'm forced to manually invoke the Terraform to install the things. Whereas with your setup in Flux and Git, you install a controller in your cluster, and then you point it at a repo, and now it slurps all that from your repo in and installs all the things,
All right, so
right?
let's compare.
So I'm a fan of the latter approach than the former, in my view. But
So in the latter approach, the Flux CD approach, if I have you point to a Flux repository, you could technically point to my Flux control repository,
mhm,
right? And you could this could just be dev cluster, right?
yeah, sure,
Except Flux is keeping track of what's in that dev cluster. I can only sync to one dev cluster, right? Otherwise, I have issues. Correct?
okay.
Right?
Why?
If you install something on your dev cluster in Flux Sync, it's going to pull in those changes,
Yeah,
right?
and that's
But
fine, right?
what if I install something and I'm synced to that same dev cluster and I install something different, or I rebuild, or I delete something, right? We we'd be fighting against each other
So the
because the
question is, what is the source? Hey, you could say, hey, Chris, I've got a repo where I'm managing a tenant, and the tenant says you get all these things. I could clone your repo and then install the Flux agent and visit my clone of your repo and get all the things and manage
right,
completely separate. If I want to have multiple clusters get that what is offered in your tenant, those capabilities, then you have that potential of conflict. Like, hey, I'm working on something, I make an update, and any cluster that's pointed at that is going to get an update unless you've somehow gated it,
yep. And now that
right?
if you're going to clone it, then you've got to keep that clone in sync.
Okay.
Yep, which
And
is
how
just
hard is
get gh repo sync, right? That works. That's fine. So
that?
I'm hearing what you're putting down. This
Yeah.
idea. So let's say, hey, Chris, I want to onboard you to my platform, and this is Deshaun Cloud. It's public. Anybody can go see it, and I'm going to give you I know what yours is. Your PackFi, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what my job is I'm going to do this, and we'll take this as far as we can today. So I'm going to say, hey, let me onboard you. What I have to do is I got your ticket. Ugh, I got your ticket. Maybe you can do a PR against my repository. Uh,
Okay.
that's actually that just makes me feel better already. Um, first, what does that look like? PR against Sean Cloud Flux Control. Put your tenant directory into yeah put yeah um, I'll just create a directory under tenants. That's it. That's all these you have to do. Cool. When you do that, that's all that you're going to have to do. You go do a PR against my repo and you add that. What does that look like? Do you mind
Are
doing
you
that?
sharing your screen? You typed a whole
Oh,
bunch of
I wasn't sharing my screen. I was taking notes. Let's do this. Let's do this here so we can see what's going on. Like, hey, I want to onboard you as a customer of my platform. I want to bring
Mhm.
you in to the good side, right? What does that look like? So here's just one option, right? Do you mind doing this? Like, let's just go through these steps as an exercise, because
Mhm.
how do orgs onboard people? Like, hey, your org is that runs the platform and
Mhm.
new team in that company that your company just acquired. They heard about your platform and they'd like to onboard. What do?
Mhm.
Well, here's one. This is the way that makes my life easy. I said the word ticket, and now I'm not going to be able to sleep.
Yeah. Well,
But what if I just made it so you could go and add this? Would you
yeah.
mind doing this exercise for me? GitHub.com, Deshaun-Cloud Flux Control. You don't
Right.
have to, but this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm new company, and I'm going to fork this because
Right.
I want to add my tenant.
Right. You're gonna. Yeah. You like what? Maybe you say, you know what? You've shared this, and somebody says, I really like everything that's here,
Yeah.
but there's a handful of things that I want to add. So I'm just going to clone or I'm going to fork and I'm going to put some things in, and maybe I'll share it back, once I've
Ooh.
tested it, right? So, like, you can create your repo, you've got a tenant or multiple tenants, and in each tenant, you have different capabilities that you are targeting for your clusters. I, as a consumer, could be coming in and going, you know what, I really like that tenant. I'm going to go ahead and fork this repo, and I'm going to add some things, and then later, and I'll test them out, and maybe I'll get back to you and say, you know what, Deshaun, I was working on X, Y, and Z, and now I'm adding. Hey, look at my nails. Are you going to show me your nails? Those are fantastic. You want the world to see your nails?
That is so cool. I would love to see him. Oh, that is amazing. Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive. I'm gonna look at this other screen because I want to see even closer. I'm gonna beat it. I'm gonna beat it. Impressive. Impressive. Look at that. Hugs before bed. Oh, that's amazing. So here's what I did. I said, hey, in order to come onto my platform,
Yeah.
Java Grant, you've got to go and add your tenant.
Okay.
Okay. So all I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go in here and I can use GitHub to
Yeah.
do. Right. I'm gonna add a directory. Right. Can I do this?
It won't let you do a directory, I don't think.
Okay. That's
But
fine.
you can do a dot.
I know how
If
to
you
do
hit
this.
dot, you get your little built-in IDE, right? In GitHub for your repo. Have you
Wait,
tried
what?
that
No.
in your
See,
browser?
this is why pairing is more fun. This is why pairing is important because it's going to be stickier and I'm going to learn something. Hopefully, you'll learn something. But what do
Just
I do
click
here?
period.
Into add a file?
No. You're in the browser. Just click the period key. It should trigger.
Oh my
There you
goodness.
go.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. And now you're in.
So now, well, that was easy. Now I do a new folder and I say, no, I want to say pack by, right? That's your GitHub repo, right?
Yeah.
And then how do I get out? I want to commit that. What do I do?
You want to save this?
I want to commit that. Yep.
Yeah. So I think you need to go to the Git. Well, you need to put something in that folder because I don't think it's going to add it by default, is it? You're going to put like a Git keep or something, README, whatever.
Cool.
And then you see over on the left-hand nav where you've got, there you go.
Commit push.
Put in a message, commit push, right?
Done.
Okay.
That was easy.
And when you want to exit,
Yep.
that's the one thing I haven't. But hold on, before you jump around, you see how you've got the tab javagrunt.com, which is where you were,
Yep.
right in the middle.
Yep.
That should get us back, right? Because that's what you.
That's a different directory.
It is.
Java Grunt. Yeah.
Okay.
Java.com.
You just need to get back there. Yeah.
So here's the changes that we just made.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, yeah, that's cool. So that's stuff. This is pretty easy if you wanted to become a customer of my platform. Now it says, hey, there's one commit. Yeah, let's open up a PR. I think the platform's pretty cool. So let's do that. Create a pull request. Sure. You're letting Deshaun Cloud know that you'd like to be a tenant on their platform.
Yeah.
So now I've got a PR. Let's go. Like, what? Let me take a look at this. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here's the commits. Oh, it's PackFi. Like, yeah, sure. Let's go. What? I'm gonna have some action items.
Something is watching this repo, though. There may be a cluster that's watching this repo, and if it's been configured, its controller has been configured to see this tenant. It wouldn't know about this new tenant that we just added, right?
So
we're not going to interfere.
So watch. Yeah. There, I'll show you how to deploy PackFi into my environment.
Mhm.
So first of all, I'm going to merge this. I'm going to say, yeah, I love it. Let's merge it. Wait. Merge pull request. Confirm. This is my trigger. I've got to go do some stuff, right? If I want to onboard you. So let's just go do that. Let's go see what that looks like. I'm going to do it this way. Oh, this is another thing. I think I've already showed you. When I go into a directory, there's no, there shouldn't be any secrets in this file. There might be on this one, but there shouldn't be any secrets in this file. And that envrc actually calls out to Bitwarden and pulls
Right.
down my secrets. I don't want secrets on my local environment. So that's one of those patterns that I do. So here we go. I have a PR. I gotta take the next steps. I hit pull, so I can see it.
Yep.
All right. So now when I go over here to Flux Control and I'm adminning, I'm gonna add PackFi. So what do I do? Here's my. I'm just gonna grab. I'm gonna grab this one because this is the one that I've used the most and the latest. I'm not gonna put my secrets in there yet. I'm gonna go like this. Control C and paste. Done. So here's what you get. Add.
The most important file out of all this stuff
Is
that exactly, because that's where you're deciding what other things you're wanting, and those files, each of them is some capability you're imbuing or you're wanting to install.
yes.
Right. Yep.
So
let's go.
This is all my steps. This is what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not going to install Cloudflare D for you because that'll take us a little bit of time. But you would get Cloudflare D, and I would set that up for you, and I'd give you the tunnel. But we'll leave that for now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that out. Actually,
Okay.
I'm not, because I want to show you. Here's my concept, and I would love your feedback. So
Okay.
this will all be PackFi. So search replace, replacing files, Java grunt-com with PackFi.
And it's doing it local to this folder. Okay.
Yep. So
All right.
this is the idea. When you come onto my platform, Cloudflare D is my ingress.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to, on your laptop or wherever you're deploying, the tenant, you don't have to worry about anything. Everything's going to come in, right? So everything at packfi.com. I don't know what your domain is, but we'll just do that. Let's just
This
say-
would have to be something that's registered, and we would put that in. Okay. Got it.
Yep. So for me, all of my javagrunt.com maps to javagrunt.com. That's my convention, right? I'm pulling in domains,
Sure.
but we
Sure.
have options. So all the traffic that comes in to this Cloudflare tunnel, the way that Cloudflare works is at Cloudflare. Let's grab, boop, right? This is Cloudflare, right? Cloudflare is a pretty awesome service. I use it for my DNS, and they've got this cool tunnel. So you're gonna install, or your cluster, your tenant, when it gets deployed into my environment, it gets a cluster. Right, you're going to be deployed onto Kubernetes, but you're going to get a little box in here. This is your tenant, right? There might be other tenants. Right?
Yeah.
We can talk about SLAs and SLs later on, but inside of your tenant, you're going to get Cloudflare D. Cloudflare D. And what I'm saying to you is this Cloudflare D, for being on my platform, you're going to get access to Cloudflare D. What's going to happen is when this tenant stands up, no matter which cluster it's on, it's going to call it Cloudflare and say, hey, packfi.com is here. I will accept traffic on packfi.com. Now, you may or may not know this about me, but my children will never deploy active passive.
Right.
All right. So this is a default setting for me. What that does for me as a platform engineer is I can do this. I can have multiple versions
Exactly.
of PacFi. And
Right.
wherever I deploy it, they're going to register. They're going to say, hey, I accept traffic for PacFi. And Cloudflare D will do load balancing for me
Hmm.
across those environments. So
That's fantastic, right?
if I'm a platform engineer, platform operator, I can say, I'm not telling you where your cluster is.
Hmm.
So this is a fun fact. I'm not going to tell you where your cluster is. You don't care.
Right.
Ideally, right? You don't care. So what do I have to do? I've got to give you a few things. I've got to give you some access, some visibility that things are running. I've got to give you access to your logs and your metrics and your tracing. I got to give you those things. So the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that you've got Zipkin, right? Zipkin. I think that's the only other thing that I'm deploying at the moment. But I'm also going to require you to handle all that traffic.
Hmm.
So what I'm going to do is you've got to create a service called Gateway Service.
Hmm.
I don't care what it's written in. It's just going to handle traffic. You can handle the routing any which way you want. On my platform, I'm going to support Spring. So I'm going to ask you to use Spring Cloud Gateway,
Gotcha.
or it could be Spring MVC, but I'm going to support Spring. My platform, I'm not going to build images unless it's got Spring. Unless you're following my conventions. If you don't follow my conventions, you don't go to production because it's only the images that I build that are going. So we can get into that later. But this is the idea. All the traffic is going to go directly to your tenant, and this is how it works.
Sean, I got to
And
ask a question.
yeah,
Have you coined the term Spring Ready Cluster
no, I haven't.
or a Spring Ready architecture?
This is these are good.
Yeah.
But I think those are right, kind of like synonyms, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
A little selfish,
yeah,
shameless self promotion,
full transparency, right? Like, in case you didn't know, Towns is the best place to run your streaming workloads. Period. Yeah, that's it. I'll leave it there.
right.
So here we are. We're doing this stuff. You come in, and here you go. Your tenant can be deployed, but it's not yet. It's not deployed anywhere yet. But I got to go and do those things. So this is what I do. I'll set up. We'll figure out what your domain is doing, and we'll set up the port. And we've got to give some secrets. We got to tell, like, yes, I'm authenticated to do traffic for this, to communicate with Cloudflare. But that's off topic.
Yeah, and that's toil in and of itself. That
Yes.
when you're thinking
On
about
my
setting up different tenants.
right, my
Well,
teammate is Lee, capital I, capital E. Like, he's definitely going to take this further, right? The next step is, hey, we do crossplane and we do some automation of the automation so we can build these things out. Like, we'll get there, but baby steps,
yeah,
right? Baby
I
steps.
love it. I love it.
So I'm going to set up RBAC. I'm going to set up the sync. So let's take a look at that. The way I'm going to do RBAC is there's going to be a service account. Everything's going to be PacFi. Your namespace is PacFi. Everything's PacFi.
Got it.
So I'm going to do this. I'm not going to deploy this, but I'm going to deploy this. I'm going to take this cluster. There's a Loki YAML that I'm not going to deploy yet. We're just going to use Zipkin for now, but there's also a sync. Now this is where it gets cool. So I'm going to set up this PacFi repository, and this is internal for me for my Flux control, and I'm going to be looking for this directory.
Right.
Anything that's in, it's going to look for customization.yaml. You get to decide what goes. Now, I'm not going to take your images. I'm going to build the images. I'm going to validate. I'm going to do all those things. But you get to decide what goes. I'm going to do everything else. All you give me is source.
Yeah, that's the trick right there. Is when we were talking about this earlier, you started something. I want to riff off of it.
Yeah,
Spring
that's
loaded.
what we do. That's how we get better.
Yeah, but like this is where we don't collide because we're pointed at different repos. I've got my clone, so I'm not. You could be doing things, and I could make a decision to do a Flux sync, and if I did that,
Yes.
maybe there's some things that I would get from having done that.
Got it.
In my clusters where I've got this as a tenant, right?
And now we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could deploy all the same things locally. You could do that, but there's what's deployed in production you might not want deployed in dev, but you have changes. Yes. So now I'm syncing with you. Now I see where you're going.
And so then bringing it back home to Terraform and Kind,
Yep.
Like to do this, I feel like this is the declarative and declarative and what's the word I'm looking
Imperative.
for? It's declarative versus imperative. Imperative is you've got to issue Terraform init, Terraform apply in order to make something happen.
Yep.
Something that watches for updates.
Yep.
So I feel like this is the better thing, although this could trip you up if you're not careful, right?
So I've made it clear, right, that right now I don't have a dev test prod, dev stage prod. I don't have that set up here. I go from laptop, from dev
Yeah.
to prod,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm doing development, and let's say today I'm working on javagrunt.com, so let's go here. This is how I deploy, how I switch working between tenants.
Mhm.
These are my development boxes. These are my development servers. These aren't in production. So it feels kind of like, oh, they shouldn't be here. But let's call them stage. Let's call them stage. This is where I do my work. This is the machine I'm on right now. It doesn't have a tenant. Let's do this. I want to deploy javagrunt-com. If I wanted to deploy that to my local environment, all that I would do is copy one of these. Or Deshaun. Let's do this one. This one's easy. Copy, paste. And I commit that. If I commit that file, Deshaun-io is deployed, will get deployed to my juice box.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. So if I'm working on the latest and greatest, I can do that. That's cool. But if on development, it would then also be syncing with that Flux repo, right? The Flux repo inside of Deshaun.io, which might not be the best. How do I get my development versions out?
Well, so
If I'm
this
working
is
on
isolation, right? So it's about how many different dependencies are you managing? How many levels of indirection are you managing through different repos of things you're consuming from third parties?
Mhm.
If everything you're building, you're managing, then it's not a problem. But if you're building things that you're depending on, like I'm depending on you for some upstream stuff, then yeah, I might run into a problem if you choose to change something on me. But then that gets to, can you just say what branch or what version, what ref of the repo that you're working on, right? And then it's fixed,
So
right?
what we've done, let's assume that all my stuff is set up and that Pacify has a Flux repository.
Mm-hmm.
As a developer that wants to work on service A inside of Pacify, what are your steps? Right? So you're new developer. Your team runs on top of Deshaun Cloud that's managed this way, and you're a developer that has just been given a task to work on service A. But you just got to, all you have is your laptop. What are your steps? What should they be?
I need a cluster. So what am I going to use? Maybe I use Kind. Maybe somebody gives me the credentials to a cluster that's not on my laptop.
Here, I'm giving you instructions. So these are the instructions that I would hand out today. I'd say, hey, go do this.
Yeah.
Set up your cluster, whatever you name it. And these are the steps I want you to pass in. Because I want you to match production. These are the steps that I want you to pass in.
Yeah.
And we're done. And then what would the next step be? You've got a cluster now that matches.
Now I've got to install some prerequisites in it in order for it to actually consume something. So I would need Flux, right? And then you tell me you make me aware of a repo that has all the stuff that my cluster needs for base level capabilities. So I might take your repo and clone it, and then make sure that my cluster has Flux, and then I'm off to the races, right?
Yeah, I'm going to take it one step further. You don't have to do that. If you set up a cluster, your next step is just this.
Okay, so it's actually bootstrapping itself, and then the repo. What is that repo? Repository Flux Control. This assumes you've already cloned the repo to your workstation. Got it. Okay.
But then I also have to have a cluster that matches your name. But let's just say I had a development cluster set up here.
Hmm.
This is the answer, right? Right. This is the other option. If I say local dev, so instead
Hmm.
of having the K3D juice and K3D Tanzu, I
Hmm.
just say local dev.
Yeah.
So this would just be local dev. That's what you would do.
Yeah.
Flux Bootstrap, local dev, your version of
Hmm.
Flux Control, but then you also get all the other stuff with it. So maybe
But I can decide because I've cloned it what I want from that. Hey, you know
yeah.
what? Jashawn gave me X, Y, and Z, but I only want X, and Y. So
But
I'm
you're
just going
also, when you clone, you're also cloning all the other information about the cluster setup and the environments and infrastructure. You're
to. So
cloning
that,
all the stuff.
but do you need it? So that's a question of do you
It's
manage
public right now.
everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So I could either leave that local dev cluster here or I could have another repository, but the steps would still be the same. I could
yeah.
still control that other repository.
Yeah.
Like here's how it is. Flux, bootstrap, boom.
Yep.
So your step, you do this,
Hmm.
followed by this,
Hmm.
or that could just be like an add-on, copy paste, done. And then you get a cluster that's defined the way a local dev cluster should be defined. You could, yeah, I'm thinking, right? You had to fork or you had to copy that repo or whatever. You had to do something, but
Hmm.
that would work.
Yeah.
That's a valid option. Because
Yeah.
here's the other piece. If if that's what you're doing and you decide, hey, you know what? Uh, no, I don't want to let you do that. One of the things that I'm a big fan of is platform teams that are fully transparent. I have seen the benefits of being able to take PRs from organizations that have 20,000 engineers. So if you're here, right, and here's the example, the office hours, the weekly office hours, that team that was there, they were the distinguished engineers and the platform engineers and the lead architects of these orgs and these portfolios. And they were the ones that would give a PR, hey, we want Grafana. And they were that part of that onboarding to the platform was like, hey, here's when the weekly office hours are. And here in those office hours, you get to learn how to do the PRs and you have a representative from your team that has access to do that. But you decide that you want to add what do we want to add? Apache Pinot. In order to do that, you submit a PR. I'm going to say, are you an expert in Apache Pinot? Because I'm not going to put anything on the menu unless it's supported,
Right.
right? So when you said that PR, like, hey, please send with it. Let me know that you've got credentials because you're going to be in charge of supporting it. I'll bring it onto the platform and I'll put it on the menu, but I'm going to need some help. Like we don't have to have a commercial contract or anything, but I need to know that I have somebody that I can send questions to. Because if
Sure.
I put it on the menu, somebody else might be using it,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna ask you to kind of help out.
Yeah.
You little give and take. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's what we're
That,
gonna do for our platform.
that makes perfect sense. And I mean, I, as a consumer of something that an ops team is putting together, you know that consumers will find
Oh yeah,
edge cases, they'll break stuff, they may find a lack of capabilities, they'll ask for introduction of something. And so, what better way to do that than to be able to clone something, or rather fork it,
yeah,
work with it, test it out, add some things, and then contribute a PR back,
yeah.
right? That's what
Fantastic.
open source is all about.
Yep. This is
Um,
cool. I like this. I'm gonna explore this. I am still a fan, and I'm glad that we had this. And I still like this idea because the alternative to the clone a repo and do the thing, the alternative to option one, option two,
mhm,
right? I already onboarded your tenant.
mhm.
Option two for the development cluster, for your local dev. No, that's still like, hey, the PR still needs to happen. Create your tenant, cool. But the alternative to fork this repo, do the Flux Bootstrap with your user, like the alternative to that is
Terraform. and delegating to Helm and building some Terraform modules out
Git
to.
clone, this local dev thing.
Mhm.
CD. What I would like to do is vendor.
You bring that in, yeah,
Terraform init.
and Terraform apply. And I would do one better.
Mm-hmm.
I would have the Terraform build on top of itself. And this is where module dependencies kind of come in.
Yep.
Is that you would bootstrap the cluster, and then you'd also install the things in the cluster once the cluster is ready.
Yep.
Right.
Already ready. Already. Yep.
Yeah.
Do all that. So my Terraform would include some modules.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have your cluster, then you have your Cilium, then you have whatever else you're working on. Yeah.
Yep. And just my main.tf is just going to reference those modules, and they're just going to get installed.
Yeah.
So that when you need to do an update to your cluster, you should be git pull.
This is where
So that
I don't
I'm
like it.
I'm delivering new stuff. You know what? I now I've added something. Oh, Prometheus. All right. I've added Prometheus, and if you want to get the Prometheus stuff or whatever, or the Apache Pinot, whatever, you want to get that stuff in your local dev, to git pull Terraform apply. Now you have all the latest version of the default upstream. That's the default cluster. Right? And then when Grafana comes, right? Because Prometheus and Grafana aren't there yet. But when Grafana comes and when Loki comes, that's all you have to git pull Terraform apply. Or Terraform destroy Terraform apply.
So this is just making me go back to my earliest days with Kubernetes. Mm-hmm. And I built out a GitHub repo called Terraform for K8s, or TF for K8s is what I call it.
I'm pretty sure I used that repo once or twice.
And I built everything under the sun with Terraform. And mm-hmm. I came to realize that it was really good for day 0, mm-hmm. but day 1 and day 2, and keeping things up to date and doing what looks very trivially, git pull Terraform apply, did not. It was filled with peril. It was not as simple as that.
Tell me some of the problems that you ran into. Actually, DevOps goes deep in OpenTofu, but he's a big fan of Massdriver. Are you familiar with Massdriver?
I've never heard of Massdriver. No.
So
I know TerraGrunt though. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is interesting. And so tell me some of the problems. How did that become hard?
Terraform, as you know, relies on state. Mm-hmm. If your state becomes corrupted, if your state is missing, yeah, you could import it. You could do some things behind the scenes. That's the one thing that you get into trouble with sometimes. The other thing you can get in trouble with is, great, you do your Terraform apply, and then you might have done some things on the cluster that you probably shouldn't have, but you did them anyway. Mm-hmm. Then you go and do a Terraform apply, and things break because the state, as Terraform understood it, is different than what the current state is on the cluster.
So if I'm doing this, you've got a local dev, you got a local.
Yeah, but see how that could be the case locally with this happening.
So what I wouldn't recommend is that developers are committing their state back up to GitHub.
Yeah, you need to manage that like in a S3 bucket or something else, right?
I'm talking about for your development machine, your laptop, developers, right? The 20 developers that are on this team.
They've got their own, so they've got their own cluster on their own machine, and they manage their own state. I get that. Even errant finger typing, RMF, you get rid of something, you could lose your state, and then you can reconstitute it. Yeah, there's ways to do that, but you could get into trouble.
All right, this is what I'm doing, right? Like remove it. Git clone. Right, like just wipe it. This is something that I do on the stream all the time. And I have the instructions right here. So this is, for me right now, this is my process. This is something that's consistent. This is what I do. K3D setup, clean up. Where's the delete? Then
And
this right here,
somehow,
yeah.
yeah.
So here's what I do. So let's go kubectx. Which one am I running? Right, kind local cluster. Let's do K3D delete cluster K. No, I'm not gonna do it on this machine. I'm gonna do it on the other machine. SSH Tanzu, my developer machine. K3D delete cluster Tanzu.
Is K3D delete? I'm not familiar with K3D.
K3D. How did I do it over
Cluster.
there?
You didn't put cluster in front.
Oh, thank you. K3D cluster delete Tanzu. It's deleting the cluster. So, oh, hey, something went wrong.
Yeah, it's
That's
gone.
okay. Delete it. Create a new one. Oh, Control C. Control V. Create a new one. Okay.
The time it takes to do a cluster is probably quick, but
Yes.
the time it takes to install modules, and you might have more than just one or two, you might have many.
Mhm.
You just sit there and wait. So every time you wait for things to be reconstituted to get back to where you were going to be, productive,
So
could be a
here,
time suck.
this is a good question. How long should dev cluster setup take? Like, so tell me if this sounds familiar. A new person comes onto the team. It takes them 2 weeks to get through all the wikis and to set up their thing, and it takes them 3 weeks before they actually do anything, deliver a git commit. Like, have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's a good goal? Is it an hour?
Yeah. Less than an hour. Yeah.
10 minutes? So when
Answering
I do
that
this,
question is different, though. I think it depends on scope, though, Deshaun. Like, you should have dial tone for your cluster in a couple of minutes. But then for your cluster to be useful, you're going to wait because you got to install things. They got to get configured. They might reach out. They may have dependencies.
I'm going to meet you halfway.
Yeah.
Because here's what I think. Do I? If I do it with Flux, if I'm driving, no, because Flux needs to keep the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me think here. If I do it the Terraform way, if I do it option 2 way, I can make all of that. I could put in the Zipkin, the stuff. I could put that all into my Terraform modules, right?
Yeah.
And this shouldn't take any. It shouldn't go any faster or slower, right? If I'm doing it with Terraform, or if I just do the Bootstrap.
Terraform delegating to Helm, and then Helm upgrades when, for example, you're making a change to a module locally and you've already got that thing installed. Maybe the best practice is destroy the cluster, start from scratch. The whole, like upgrades, the things you typically do day 1 and day 2 in production is not going to be your development iterate path, right? You're going to be destroying things and bringing things back up again.
Yep.
So maybe that's fine.
This is I think for developers, I think that they're fine with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because in production, I'm using Helm, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing that. In production, I've got a little bit more flexibility because what I can do if I'm serving up Pacify, what I can do is I can go from, hey, Pacify is running on K3D Juice or K3D Gonzo. I can take that same tenant, I can take Pacify, and I can move it over to another cluster. And then I can upgrade this cluster and I can move it back, or I can leave it over there. I have flexibility. You shouldn't care. As long as you're getting traffic, as long as things are being routed, as long as you get your logs, metrics, traces, and you have access, it's up and running, I will share with you. Do I have? Let me think.
I guess I'm challenging, Deshaun, that what I'm challenging is it's not necessarily bad to do things multiple ways, but for economy, and
Yes.
for maintainability and for scalability.
Hmm.
If you can settle on one way to do something, right, that's the most expedient,
Yep.
settle on that. And you've opted for a GitOps approach here with Flux and managing tenants
Hmm.
that could equally work well for a local development environment. What we're looking at, there's a little bit of toil in the setup and things, unless you decide, you know what, I'm not gonna, like my dev setup, I'm not gonna worry about Cloudflare, and I'm not gonna worry about, some other things. I'm gonna have a stripped down local dev experience. But the delivery of capabilities and iteration and keeping things up to date is consistent, meaning it's one way to do this. Now what we're talking about, going off and exploring, and like I said, I love checking out new things, but
Hmm.
like using Terraform, now you've got a different setup that a developer cares about in the way, and now that's not necessarily the way things work in
Yeah.
production. So I get to consistency and
Yeah.
maintainability is what appeals to me about this.
And now, let's be honest. There's not a lot of platform teams that are thinking this far down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not thinking downstream far enough. Where, hey, yeah, we got a platform, we can do all these things. I mean, I am
This
very
is
impressed when.
you. It's like a virtuous cycle because
Yeah.
consumers are the devs who,
Yes.
but for whom are operators serving? Product owners, development teams.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself a reason for doing this, and you're
Yes.
delighting your end consumer
Yep.
by
Right.
doing this work.
Right. I draw this line. These are where the contracts are, right? There's a contract here. With the platform team. There's a contract between the platform team right? Whether it's Raspberry Pis or AWS or GCP, because when I move out of my data center, and this is another thing that we've talked about many times. So when peak traffic comes, and I can't run on platform, I need to burst. Think about that. I can deploy a cluster anywhere. I can deploy a cluster into the cloud.
Yeah.
I can say, hey, cluster, here, I want you to deploy PacFi. Here, it sets up the cluster. It puts everything it needs to in the cluster. Because my children will never deploy active passive, it's going to get traffic in the cloud.
Yeah.
I can customize that, but I don't have cloud money. But maybe in the holidays I do. Maybe that's when I sell stuff. Maybe I only sell stuff once a year, right? I can do that. I can burst out if I follow this approach. There's a data story there that we'll have to talk about, but hashtag you can see that again my children will never deploy active passive, so
Yeah.
there's things that I know how to do in order to keep things active.
Yeah.
So this is how we go forward, and
And
yeah, and setting up those
it's
clusters in the
how a
cloud.
dev could go forward because it's not that much more work to do. In fact, it's the same work, right? To do this. It's just that you can decide, is a contract between dev and ops, right? Platform engineering is a contract with dev and ops.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this idea is like, hey, this is yeah, we're going to support you. Now I think that this is a step, and when I see it, it's amazing, where the platform team says, oh yeah, but also we understand you've got developers, and here's what their Kubernetes cluster should look like. Here's an example. Here's a way for them to set up their Kubernetes cluster, and you're always going to be matching production, right? This is how we go forward. So there's no surprises,
Right.
right? Hey, we've standardized on Cilium, so don't talk to me about
Yeah.
Istio.
Yeah.
Or if you really want to talk to me about Istio, then you know how to do it
There's
from the
nothing that prevents you, Joe Dev,
yeah.
from going off the farm, right? But we have a mechanism for how you deliver, so long as you maybe abide by this sort of packaging and structure. You can do this, and there's economies here, and it builds out. You think about not just one developer, but teams of developers, and across an enterprise,
Yep.
how this scales, right? I'm sorry that the lights went dark on
No
me. I've
worries.
got one of those timer things I need to go
No
switch
worries.
lights back on. But
I get it. Don't
this
worry.
is
There's
great.
nobody watching. It's just you, me, and Duct Tape DevOps.
Yeah.
We're okay. So
Now this is good stuff, man. This is great. I love hacking like this.
now look at
Good
who just
morning.
dropped in. Jonas. So here's the thing. Jonas has forked this repository. Jonas is taking it for a spin and he's using it. Yep. He's forked it. He comes in. He's yeah. He's a member of the community and he's given us good feedback already. But he's doing it on Raspberry Pis, just like me.
Love it.
So we're baby steps. We're moving forward. Incremental progress. This was fun.
Yeah.
This was absolutely fun. I have to say, like, this is cool. I'm lucky. I love my job. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I think this is cool. I'm gonna take it one step further. I'm gonna make something similar. And I know I was saving. Hold on. I was saving this. Hello. I'm gonna add this back to the stage. I'm gonna put this back. I was saving this part until after I had tried it.
There we go.
Yeah. I saved that. I didn't want to give it a preemptive star, even though I really like the idea. I didn't want to give it a preemptive star. Jonas says, like, hey, what are we talking about? Let's just do a quick recap. I asked, do people run Kubernetes? Are you running Kubernetes on your laptop? And nice long thread, lots of great response, a lot of great insights. It helped me kind of just to get a sense, right? It's not a survey. It's not, valid about anything else. But I heard some interesting things about just opinions. Like how are you doing development locally? Jonas, you know that I do development locally. I have Kubernetes run. I test these things locally. Yeah, like that's what I do. And I make my laptop available locally. But then this came up in the thread. He said, hey, I use Terraform with Kind to create my local cluster on demand, including Istio and observability tools. And when I don't need it, I dispose of it. I've always been a big fan of that. Just delete it and start over. You should be able to do that. My little 10-hour stream on the other box, I took a box that I hadn't used in 100 days, a machine I hadn't used, and I left. I wasn't doing my stream from here. I went remote. I was working from there, and I was like, how easy is it? Can I start being productive easily from scratch? So I got rid of all the clusters. I did all the stuff, and I said, git clone, K3D install, boop, boop, and I'm ready. Like it should be that easy. It shouldn't be that I have to do my development on this box. I should be able to go to any machine and have a fairly simple step, and I'm productive. That's one of my beliefs. That's one of my opinions. And I also am a big fan, and I think I credit the Code Complete book. It was the first book I got as a professional from my manager. And I think the concept came from there for me. It was like, you should be able to delete your local development environment and start over. Like that is a good practice to have, because if your stuff is fragile and you can't delete it, then don't even think about going to production, right? You should have this easy way of, yeah, things work. And hey, it works on mine. You should be able to do it on another machine, right? We're not doing the shared environment thing anymore. And now that production for me looks like Kubernetes, I like to be looking like Kubernetes and having the Zipkin Loki stuff on my laptop. That'd be great to have a same, right? To have that muscle memory that, oh yeah, in Loki, and here's my Grafana dashboard, and boop, it looks the same. That's valuable. So this came along and it inspired me. It was intriguing to me. So I decided to jump in and let's take it for a spin. And we did. And what we found out on my machine on ARM64, it did not work, it failed. But I had a hint. I was like, maybe it's because it's ARM64. So Chris, my esteemed colleague, Chris, he had a machine and he took it for a spin and it worked. So we think it was just the ARM64 x86 thing, which I'll absolutely open up an issue because, yeah, it worked. That's what we should do. Hey, I took your thing for a spin. It didn't work on ARM64, but it worked on x86. Could that be an issue? Right? We'll open up that issue. But then the idea that Terraform, what should the developer experience be for you? Right? Jonas, you've already taken this for a spin, but let's say I wanted to bring you onto my platform. Let's say I wanted you to have all the things that matched mine. I don't want you to have a Raspberry Pi and set up that cluster. I want you to just be able to come in, right? I want to give you a cluster easily, hopefully as easy as something like this, a simple command that gives you a cluster that's going to match my environment, my platform. But how do I give you those specifics? A cluster is one thing, but the additional things is separate. Like, hey, I use Zipkin. Zipkin is going to be at this address. It should be the same in your cluster. Or we use Prometheus, and it should have the same address in your local dev cluster as it does in production. Prometheus dot Kubernetes local service dot your tenant name dot whatever, right? Like it should be consistent so that when you're going to production, it's same. All the things should be the same. That's okay. Active all the way around. So that's what we're talking about. And we were just getting ready to wrap up. It was awesome. I love hanging out with Chris, and I'm a big fan of you too, Jonas. I'm glad that you're here. I haven't talked to you in a while. I hope things are going well. And yeah, hopefully that made sense. But I was impressed with this repository. I gave it a star. I think it's worth checking out. I think I'm going to take it for a spin, and I want to see if I can set up the dev environment. And I've been saying this, and I've known this. I don't have a dev stage prod process, but that's the part that's missing. I want you, Jonas. I want to be able to set up a cluster for you or for anybody that says, "Hey, here's what one of my production clusters looks like," and I want to give you that. I want to give you that as easy as possible. And when I add things like Prometheus and Grafana, what does that look like for you? What if I'm dealing with 20,000 engineers? What if I've never met the people and the only way that they have access to me is through my office hours and through pull requests? What should that process look like? And it's just interesting. There's infinite ways to get there. There's just no shortcuts. So yeah, and I'm a big fan. Just pick one, right? And you said that to me just a minute ago, Chris. Just pick one and stick with it. Make it consistent. I shouldn't get rid of the cognitive overload, right? Just, yeah, this is how production gets deployed. This is how my laptop gets deployed. It's the same. It should be similar, right? That would help, right? From the line of like a new developer, junior developer coming out of school, all the way up to, right, somebody that's an architect and they're dealing with multiple tenants and they've got to get these things wrapped around in their head, right? Oh, I can have multiple tenants on my local cluster. Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been fun. This has been fun. And Duct Tape DevOps has been here. Thank you so much for joining. This is just cool. I wasn't really expecting anything, but I saw this. I had to take it for a spin. And that you came and joined, it made it more enjoyable. It made it stickier. Thank you so much for joining. I think we should just wrap up.
Yeah. Thanks for showing.
Before we wrap up, I'm going to tell you, you are aware of the whole YouTube thing, where I've got this. When I do a stream, and the title of the stream starts with #JavaGrunt, I get events from YouTube. I think you'll get a kick out of this.
Oh, this is the whole Spring AI YouTube
Yes.
working on. Okay.
So YouTube writes, I have an event listener, and this is all here in JavaGrunt.com, right? There's an event that goes to the listener. Boop. That listener says, "Oh, okay, I got all the stream data," and it throws it into a database. And then I've got this service. I got a Spring Cloud task that runs every hour, looking for updates. I've got this service, and I think that's actually deployed. If I go to no, let's go look at it in production. JavaGrunt.com, YouTube-service API, YouTube video. So this should give me, it was scaled to 0. Again, Raspberry Pis, it was scaled to 0. It's a native image and it stood up. So then it has all of the videos. This is the ID, here's the video. And you see it says, this is the one we're doing right now. The #JavaGrunt, Tuesday isn't over yet. So here's the video. So obviously I haven't ran it in a while, but the next step, can I run this locally? The next step is it goes and says, if it starts with #JavaGrunt, what it's doing is, I'll just draw it. What it's going to do is, we have the listener, which writes it to a database, blah, blah, blah. There's also a service. These are kind of separate. But then I have this other thing. I got the Spring Cloud task. Every hour, looking for updates. And if it sees hashtag job grunt, it kicks off a process. Boop. Actually, it calls back to YouTube service and says, hey, update this one. It's like, I see it, update this one. And what that endpoint does, calls out using Spring AI. Hello. OpenAI, open, and it updates the title, provides a summary description.
You didn't have to type anything; it just does it.
Just does it. So this is and it's cool.
So does it pick it up from the transcription of all this stuff?
Yes.
What the?
Yeah. So at the end, it also generates a new thumbnail image for the show. So who knows what I'm talking about? I never know what I'm going to talk about before the show starts. But how cool is this that at the end, and it worked. This was the last thing I did on the last time I streamed. It automatically goes and does it. It pulls the transcript. It does all the things, and I don't have to do anything. So all these shows that don't have a thumbnail, you can see I've been practicing. They're going to have a thumbnail and an updated image that all is generated by these AI models.
That's awesome.
Isn't it though?
That is awesome.
Isn't it?
You've come a long way from, I remember the very first conversation you had with the guy who built up the YouTube thing in Python, and then you and him and was it Josh?
And Josh, yep.
On that. And then how many months now has it been? Maybe a couple,
So that was in November.
Yeah.
Yep, that was in November.
Look how far we've come, or you've come.
Yeah. Oh, and Duct Tape DevOps. Duct Tape DevOps is also taking Spring AI for a spin, right? If you go to his channel, he has it so that, hey, when you come in and you chat, his AI, what is your bot called? Neurobot. He's got a bot that's watching chat, and it'll automatically go and look at your Twitch profile and generate an emote for you. Generate one of these logos, one of these like a duck or whatever, but it'll generate based on your Twitch profile. Yeah, this one, the Ducktronaut.
Okay.
Right? So you can see how we've kind of come together, and we found each other in other streams, and it's been great. So it's just been fun. So he's also doing a ton of stuff with AI. I can't use OpenAI forever because, again, I don't have cloud money. I have Raspberry Pi money. So because Spring AI allows me to plug in my own models and I can use wherever I want. After I get it working in proof of concept with OpenAI, then we're going to the next step, and we're just going to start using it locally. And because I've got the transcripts, because I've pulled down the transcripts and I have all that information, the other cool thing is I can start to add context. As soon as I can capture the chat. If I can inject the chat into the transcript where they go, then I've got a lot better context. But because I have that, because I have the transcripts of all these shows, I can use those transcripts and put those transcripts into a vector database.
Yep.
And then I can use Spring AI with RAG for here, right? For my show, my stream. And I can start to answer questions based on, have we already covered it? Like,
right.
What's the right way? What should we do? How cool is that?
Go look here.
Yep. How cool
That's
is
awesome.
that? So
wow.
Baby steps, teamwork makes the dream work. We're having fun, and we're doing it live, and we're doing it together, because if you want to go far, go together. Right? You want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yes, indeed.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining. I'll be streaming again tomorrow, but until then, thanks. We'll see you soon.